In Russia, heads of state from more than 20 countries attended the grand military parade on the occasion of the 80th anniversary of the victory of the Soviet Union over Nazi Germany in the Great Patriotic War. Pope Leo XIV officiated the first Mass of his pontificate in the Sistine Chapel in front of all cardinals. And the United Nations warned that over 2 million Gazans suffer daily from severe drinking water shortages. Hello and welcome to From the South. My name is Belén de los Santos. I'm from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. On the morning of May 9th, a victory parade was held in Moscow to commemorate the victory of the Red Army over Nazi Germany and the end of World War II. The event began after the arrival of President Vladimir Putin and other heads of state. Before the parade began, President Putin addressed the Russian people with a speech paying tribute to the history and sacrifice of the Soviet Red Army soldiers on the battlefields. After this, in honor of the fallen Soviet soldiers, a minute of silence was held. Military troops from various countries took part in this parade, followed by several units of the legendary T-34 tank, a symbol of the Soviet victory. And for more information on this, we go once again live to our special envoy in Moscow, Yunus Soner. Hello, Yunus. Tell us a little bit of what happened today and how it was lived there in Moscow.
Hello, good evening from Moscow. It's a little bit getting dark slowly. Now we have almost 8 o'clock local time. It's the end of a very emotional day for the population of Moscow and also for the population of Russia in general. We have been witnessing the military parade among the citizens of Moscow, and we asked them how they felt about it. And they were really emotional because almost all of them had lost a family member in this great patriotic war, as it's called here in Russia or was called in the Soviet Union. They were carrying photographies of these grandfathers who had sacrificed their lives in the fight, in the war against fascist Germany. And they were remembering these family members. And noteworthy, there were a lot of very, very young people who told us that they grew up with these stories, how their grandfathers went to war, how their families survived the hardship of war, the siege of Leningrad, for instance, the fighting in Stalingrad. They grew up with these stories, and this was the day of remembering these stories again, remembering their past. The second very dominant feeling was that they felt united, and they emphasized that this was a struggle of all the Soviet people, and they clearly and explicitly mentioned also, for instance, the Ukrainian people as well as the Belarusian people and other peoples of the Soviet Union. And the third feeling they expressed to us very clearly was pride. They were proud that their nation, that their country had won this fight, this war against Nazi Germany. And they also felt very proud of more than 27 leaders. I think that the last official number given by the Russian agency is 27 leaders of different countries attending this ceremony. That made them also proud and gave them the feeling of kind of being a leadership of a global struggle. So these were the common emotions that we encountered at all corners among the Russian population here in Moscow.
Yunus, you were speaking about the importance of unity at a day like today, and also about this international component, right? A day of international solidarity as well, with the presence of leaders worldwide, but specifically leaders from the global south and from Latin America in particular. What can you tell us about how they were received? What is the general feeling regarding the presence of leaders from our region over in Russian soil?
Oh, that's something really noteworthy because, as you know, the presidents of Cuba, Miguel Diaz-Canel, and the president of Nicolas Maduro have arrived here already days before. They already held a ceremony yesterday at the statue of Simon Bolivar, and today they obviously participated in the parade, and they received a lot of applause from the spectators in the Red Square. And besides that, as correspondents of teleSUR, we present ourselves to the citizens of Moscow before asking them for interviews or for statements. And when we say that we are working for teleSUR, they immediately say Cuba and they say Venezuela, and they cheered us. Well, they did not cheer us personally, but they cheered our TV channel and the countries that we have the roots in as Cuba and Venezuela, and they expressed their gratitude and also their respect for these countries' resistance against today's attempts of domination and imperialism, as Cuba and Venezuela have been one of the two countries known worldwide of resisting imperialism, and this is acknowledged a lot by the population of Moscow. We witnessed that when asking them, and they combined actually this struggle, this resistance of Cuba and Venezuela against US imperialism with the Soviet resistance against fascist Germany. So they made a clear connection between that, and they were very welcoming us in all the questions we asked and in all the interviews we made.
Such nice stories to know about the friendship and solidarity, not only of the world leaders, but also among those peoples. Thank you so much, Yunus, for your report from the ground from Moscow.
Thank you.
And now we go to a short break. And first, you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. We continue with the information, and in this case, with the analysis of the relevance of this 80th anniversary of the Soviet win, the Soviet victory over the Nazi regime in 1945. And for that, we now welcome Ermelinda Malcot, international analyst. Thank you, Ermelinda, for joining us here in From the South to go deeper into such an important topic. I would like to start by asking you, from a European perspective, from Europe, what does this day mean as in terms of how it shaped the decades after that moment in 1945?
Well, it's a bit strange because we have some kind of schizophrenia in Europe about that date. Actually, the 9th of May has been converted the European Day by the new European Commission authorities, because they don't want to align with the agenda of commemorating the end of fascism with the Russians. So we can see that there is some kind of separation between Europe and Russia, and it has been the case actually since a very long time, and even since before the winning of the war by Soviet Union. So the project of separating Europe from Russia or the Soviet Union, it's a very long project, and nowadays we can see how far that project that has been initiated by European imperialism, but also by the United States, how far that project that has been fomented since several decades has reached today. So we have several several presidents or prime minister from Europe that has been going to Russia, but that are facing sanctions from the European institutions. So it's a very strange day. Of course, lots of anti-imperialist people are very proud of the victory of the Soviet Union and Russia against fascism, but we feel that we are against our own authorities on that subject.
Of course, and you were talking about that historical dispute that has also been brought about by these different narratives regarding the end of Second World War. And we see, for example, today this very important parade being held in Russia with the presence of very relevant international world leaders. How do you see this impacting, or what does it mean in terms of how the global scenario today is positioning itself in this context?
We are clearly seeing a reshaping of the international relations and of the force correlation in the world. United States, which has been the main imperialist countries for more than 5-6 decades, is really now losing its power. And we are seeing how much the new world that is emerging today is present in Moscow today. So we have seen that the total isolation in Europe, for example, France, for example, is has been alone for his 8th of May festivities, and we see on contrast that Russia is really holding a huge diplomatic and international event of all of those countries that wants to on the same time construct a new world together, and also who are knowing that they will have to construct it against the aggression of European and United States imperialism. So it's a new shaping of the world, a new diplomacy, a new institution that are working today together.
It's very insightful also to understand the tensions, of course, that have to do with the present moment. And you were talking before about this project of separating Europe from Russia and, of course, its historical roots. How do you see the years to come? Because, of course, also the arrival to a second term of U.S. President Donald Trump and its own tensions with Europe has put Europe on a very tight spot regarding its relations both with the United States and also with Russia. How do you see this affecting the years to come?
Well, it will be a very schizophrenic process again. I see Europe in a very strange position because we have to understand that European institutions, it's not a European creation, it's a United States creation. So cutting the relation with the United States would be quite difficult. So Europe is trying to enter a little bit into that new multipolar world, but would not have all the means to do because it has that quasi-colonial relation with the United States, and also because Europe is it's a conjunction of imperialism, and imperialism is very incompatible with what we are trying to construct into the multipolar world. So it will be a very difficult position. We also can see that Europe is actively separating itself from the Euro-Asian continent. At the same time, it wants to construct a relation with the Euro-Asian continent. So what I fear the most is that on the day of the 9th of May, we can see that Europe is really cultivating some fascist elements into its continent. We can see it obviously in Ukraine and in the Baltic countries, but also we have to remember that, and we have to read all the biography that has been produced the last day, for example, of the family of Ursula von der Leyen, president of the European Commission, which has a long history with Nazism, the history of the family of the new Chancellor of Germany, which has also a long history with fascism, the history of the French president, which has a long relation with the financial sector, which also has a huge relation with fascism and Nazism in Europe. So it's very interesting on those days to understand that the huge contradiction Europe will be in wanting to rejoin the multipolar world, but being an imperialist country and having so strong relations with fascism, it will be extremely complicated for it. So I think that what will change the thing here is that if we don't have popular movement that are pushing for real multipolar world, Europe will be stuck in the United States influence and won't be able to do anything else that's being mostly some kind of colony of the United States.
Definitely such a relevant day to think about these challenges to come. Thank you so much, Ermelina, for joining us here in From the South.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
That was Hermelinda Melcot, international analyst in from the South, analyzing the significance of this event 80 years from the Soviet victory over the Nazi regime in 1945. And now we have a short break coming up, but first you can join us on our Facebook page at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverages, and much more. Follow the page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break. Don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. The newly elected Pope Leo XIV officiated the first Mass of his pontificate in the Sistine Chapel. To find out more on this first day of the new leadership of the Catholic Church, let's go to our special envoy in the Vatican, Jorge Gestoso, with the latest news over there.
Thank you. Leo XIV was celebrating a Mass this morning as Pope for the first time, and it did so in the Sistine Chapel, attended by the 133 cardinals that were selecting him. And mostly his message in the homily was that he was being selected to bring with him a church and a cross, and he was expected that those cardinals walk with him with that cross. He was denouncing the lack of faith in the world. He said that mostly the Catholic Church and the Catholics itself, they need to shine by their commitment to the Church and not by the material buildings around them. It was a criticism of the materialistic world and the lack of principles in a way that he was mentioning. He was also putting emphasis in his relationship with the rest of the world. And what we have known is that he has been a very close ally of Pope Francis, so much so that he was spending 24 years of his life in Peru. He was 30 when he arrived there as a missionary, and the diocese of Chiclayo, he was there in his commitment. And when yesterday he was giving his benediction in that balcony for the first time, he turned to Spanish, because he was talking in English, he was talking in Latin and also in Spanish, and he was saluting his diocese of Chiclayo and all the commitment of that people. It was the first time that we saw the Pope already talking about the language and mentioning that he's really sharing the commitment to the Church that was emphasized by Pope Francis like a reformist, meaning social justice, meaning taking care of migrants and the most vulnerable people, people left by aside. He was also mentioning that he's into dialogue, building bridges, and trying to put away all violence that is all over the world today. So mostly what the conclusion of all the analysts that are observing what's going on, they say in reality it was the big victory of Pope Francis. In a way, directly or indirectly, was Pope Francis who really was elected him as his successor. So Leo XIV is expected to have another activities, not today, but most definitely is going to have a very, very heavy agenda in the coming days. We get back to you now.
Thank you, Jorge, for all the information in this relevant day for the Catholic Church from the Vatican City. Now we continue with other topics. The United Nations warned that over 2 million Gazans suffer daily from severe drinking water shortages. The UN Special Rapporteur on the human rights to safe drinking water and sanitation, Pedro Agudo, reported Israeli military operations had destroyed over 70% of the water system. The human rights expert further noted that this condition had prevented access to pumping drinking water, labeling the situation as a time bomb. Likewise, the diplomat highlighted that the vast majority of the population had received a minimal water amount, and in some cases they had been given contaminated water, which posed a great threat to health. And like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Also join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok as well. For TeleSUR English, my name is Belén de los Santos. Thank you for watching.